Now boarding solo flight with Nicole Anderson. Hey guys, welcome back to the pod. It's Monday, so that means another solo flight episode. Today, I hope you guys are strapped in and ready because this episode is going to be all over the place, okay? We are taking it everywhere because my mind is pretty scattered. And so I guess we're just going to see where this takes us. First of all, I want to say thank you to everyone who listened and shared Camille's episode last week. We were actually quite hesitant about how people would react based on such a heavy, difficult topic. And I think we could actually have more episodes further unpacking generational trauma. But if you guys have not had time to give that a listen, maybe pause this first and then give that a listen. Or if you're in the mood for an episode that is a little bit lighter and more kalat, then maybe this is the episode for you. All right, let's dive right into it. Let's go to topic number 1, my Nagoya trip. So 2 days ago on Saturday, I released my Nagoya episode on the YouTube channel. If you guys are unaware, I also have a vlog where I share a lot of my travel. So if you guys want to check out some of my trips, you can check that out. I will find a way to link it somewhere here, or I'm sure you guys can just search it on YouTube if you just type my name. Anyway, so I posted about my Nagoya trip, and I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of a debrief after the trip. I realized I didn't get to talk about it so much on the vlog, so I figured, okay, why not do it here? So I took a 4-hour trip to Nagoya from Manila. It's actually a 4-hour flight. I took Cebu Pacific, and it was quite easy to get there. The flight was pretty early in the morning, and so I had the whole day to spend when I got there. I will say I wasn't sure what to expect when I got to Nagoya, but when I got to the airport, I was definitely surprised by how different the airport in Nagoya was as compared to the Tokyo airport that I'm used to. I think I'm referring to Narita. Yeah, so when I got to the airport, I was like, oh, okay, it's a different vibe. It definitely feels like a smaller town. I know that I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's one of the 4th largest cities or districts in Japan, but it definitely has a different vibe from Tokyo. Now, if you guys are really wanting to get out of the city or like see Japan but have a different experience, I think Nagoya would be a great suggestion for you guys because it's a lot more, I think the word I would use is chill. It's such a chill city. There were times where Kim is my friend who went with me. Kim and I were walking on the streets, and we would just literally be walking from one mall to another or from one building to another, and it would be pitch silence on the street, and cars were zooming past left and right, and like there would be 300 people walking on the street next to us, but you wouldn't hear anything, and it almost felt a little weird. Like it was just something culturally I'm not used to. So we would look at each other, and I would whisper to her and be like, dude, I almost feel like we're on a set of a movie and no one's allowed to talk. You know how like the extras sometimes just talk in the background where the actors have their main talking scene up front? That's what it felt like. If I were to try to give a comparison of what Narita is like in comparison to Tokyo, obviously they're completely different cities versus Manila or let's say Makati. But let's say if Tokyo was Makati and with the hustle and bustle and all this stimulation, I would say the vibes I got from Nagoya was more like an alabang, almost papunta na sa Laguna vibe. Ganun sila ka-chill. Okay? Ganun ka-chill yung vibe. So, kung yun yung hanap nyo, but you still want to go to Japan and eat great Japanese food, this might be the place for you. It was also very affordable in comparison to bigger cities like Tokyo. So, if you are also thinking of wanting to go to Japan, but you want to be more within your budget, definitely check out Nagoya. I think you might be pleasantly surprised. It was so chill and relaxing. But if you really want super wild, so much going on, a lot of stimulation, then also keep that in mind. Speaking of cultural differences, this just came to my mind right now. This wasn't even on the list of topics I wanted to talk about, but since we're already on the topic, I actually find cultural differences so fascinating, and I think it's part of the reason why I love solo traveling so much, because the more I solo travel, and this episode isn't a pitch for me to try to convince you that you should go solo traveling. I'm just sharing why I personally love it so much. And the reason I love solo traveling so much is because when I go to different places that have such different cultures than what I either grew up in or what I'm used to, it almost opens up my eyes to realize that you can just move geographically from one place to another, and all of a sudden people are living life completely different from the way you are doing it. And it kind of makes you feel like there's so much out there in the world that we are so unaware of. And it's so easy for us to make the assumption that this is the way we grew up, therefore this is correct, right? Like that might be the subconscious mentality that you have. And I think my little psych heart just finds it so fascinating that it doesn't necessarily mean that just because someone is living a different way than you are, it doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just different. And I really want to explore this topic with a friend. Let me know if this is something you guys want me to talk about and who you want me to talk about it with. Let me know in the comment section, because it literally ranges from something so minute of how people greet each other to how people enter homes. Like in Asian households, it's well known that a lot of people are expected to remove their shoes, but then in Western households they're not. And to bigger family decisions and financial decisions and just everything, culture really affects so much, and I just find it so fascinating. So if that's something you guys want me to talk about, let me know, because I would be happy to explore it more or kind of share the differences that I've experienced, and maybe we can find someone who maybe grew up in a different culture that I've experienced, and then we can kind of compare notes. I think that would be a fun, interesting topic too. Let me know and we can try and make that happen. Okay, now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about this whole demure trend that we are seeing all over social media. Now, I don't necessarily want to delve into the origins or the trend itself, because I think I personally quite enjoy seeing all the different iterations of everyone's interpretation of the audio and having fun with it. And I think it's all great, and it's not meant to be taken so seriously. But what I will say is I was scrolling recently and I came across someone's post and I quite resonated with it, and I wanted to share my thoughts on the topic because someone mentioned online, and if I find the post, I'll share it on my Instagram account when I see it. But it went along the line of saying that, one, they're realizing that a lot of people don't actually know what the word means. And two, they're happy that this trend specifically is trending because it's sort of expanding people's vocabulary, and it's a step in the right direction in terms of helping society nowadays, especially the youth, sort of expand their vocabulary, which I quite agree with. Like, I love that for everyone. If trends like this will make people be more aware of ways in expanding their vocabulary, wow. As I'm saying that, dun ako nabulol, diba? Perfect timing. How ironic. But if it can help expand people's vocabulary, I think that's great, because as much as personally also, I love playing into trends, and I think they're, fun and light and all good and fun in the moment. I think nowadays, I notice when I communicate with a lot of people, I find it's difficult for them to communicate and express how they're feeling. And I know personally, I am not the person to be speaking on this topic. I am no English professional. I can't even speak. Okay, guys, maybe I shouldn't even be talking about this topic. The one topic I'm trying to be serious about, dun pa ako nabulol. Anyway, I'm saying I'm not an English professor, so I am not the person who should be leading the charge on this. But I will say that I think it's great that we can find different vernacular to express specific either emotions or feelings or different adjectives to describe different things. Personally, I find it very exciting when I learn a new word for something that I've always never quite knew or never knew how to explain, and then I learn it. I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly what I've been feeling, or that's exactly what I've been trying to say this whole time. And I think if we can all kind of run with that societally, I think we would all be in a better position. But I don't know. What do you guys think? I might be wrong. I'm happy to discuss and I'm happy to hear your guys' thoughts. I just find it so ironic that the one time I try to talk about vocabulary is dun pa ako nabulol, guys. Of course. Perfect timing. Galeng. Anyway, another topic I wanted to talk about on this episode was this article that I came across at the New York Magazine. It was written by Andrea Gonzalez Ramirez, and it's about how to travel with friends without coming home as enemies. And it's a very interesting read. I will do my best to link it here and in the description box down below, as well as in my stories on Instagram. But there was one thing she mentioned that kind of stuck with me and resonated with me, because this is something that I've heard a lot of people discuss, and it tends to become a point of contention when friends travel together. And it's one of the tips that she says, and it's called staying on top of shared bills. Now, this is actually, in my opinion, a very important topic that friends need to be open and honest about, especially if you guys are planning to go on a trip together, because usually not everyone is on the same financial page or is in the same boat financially. So I feel like I understand that talking about finances can be a little bit of a sensitive / awkward subject, and you don't necessarily have to sit everyone down and be like, hey, how much in debt are you? Or like, can you even afford this? Because sometimes even having that conversation can be very difficult. But I think at the end of the day, only you know your friends best. So you would know what the best approach in talking about that would be with them. But one thing I would say that has helped me and my group of friends, and I'm not sponsored by this app at all, but it was actually something I learned from another friend who added me on the app, and it was so useful. And it's called Splitwise. And basically you just add everyone onto the app, and whenever there's let's say like a group bill or a dinner that everyone has to split, or a cab ride, or whatever the group has to split, right? And it doesn't have to be just for the group. It could also be just between you and another person. So it gives you that option to how many people you split it with, and specifically who. That way, at the end of the trip, everyone has a clear tally of how much each person owes everyone, or if it's just one person, how much they owe. And that way, also, you're able to keep track of who has paid what, because sometimes there's also been situations with me and my friend group that, we'll be in the chat group, or maybe they'll DM them personally, be like, hey, you haven't paid me, let's say, this amount for the cab ride. And she'll be like, girl, I paid you 2 days ago. You're just so busy, you forgot. And then she had to show the screenshot again from whatever e-wallet app they used. And so it's easier to keep track when you have apps like this, because then you could say, oh, they actually paid already. So you could just click that paid button, and then it's, that you can look back on it and be like, oh, actually that bill is settled and we don't have to think about it. That being said, it is also such a scary topic for me and my friends, because when we talk about things like that, and I think we did recently, I literally had to stop everyone in the conversation, because it's also so easy to forget that everyone has so much going on in our lives. Like people in my friend groups are having babies, are paying for school tuition fees, are organizing play dates, and flying to so-and-so country, opening businesses, things like there's so much happening that it's difficult to keep track of how much money you owe everyone. And I remember back in high school or in college, I would always say, if I owe someone money, I would absolutely never forget it. I won't be able to sleep until I paid them off. And I still feel that way. But there will be times where you're like, oh my God, I totally forgot. Like, I still owe you 250 pesos or whatever it is, right? Whatever the amount is. So I literally had to stop everyone in the table and just kind of, I made myself tribute and open the conversation to be like, if anyone owes anyone money in this table, this might be a good avenue to kind of bring it up for everyone. But rather than putting it on anyone else, I made it so that I was the subject and that I was the one who would potentially be at fault if I did actually forget. So I stopped everyone and I said, guys, I just want to make sure, para clear lang, like diretsahan na to. That's what I said. Diretsahan na to, guys. Do I owe anyone money? Like, do I owe you for coffee last week? Or did I pay you back for the movie that we watched last week? Because sa totoo lang, I'm not going to remember all these little things, right? But of course, they're going to add up, and I don't want to have any building resentment. And by doing that, if let's use, I don't know, whoever, let's call this girl Sarah. I don't even know a Sarah, but if I owe Sarah money and she is afraid or awkward to ask me that money back, then by me asking and genuinely, because I don't remember, that then opens the floor for her to be like, oh yeah, actually, like, I paid for that last week and you haven't paid me back. I'd be like, oh my God, yeah, I'm so sorry, I totally forgot, let me work on that right now, right? So if that is something you guys want to try to incorporate in your friend group, I think that might be helpful, because I would hope that I would never be in a position where I just forgot to pay my friends. But sometimes life really happens, guys, and let's all cut each other some slack. But also, don't be the friend naman who just takes advantage of everyone else's quote unquote hiya, and that you'll just hope that no one ever bills you, because you also just don't want to be that person. Like, that's going to end up building up resentment, and potentially you might end up losing the friend down the road. So if that is something that you feel you want to open up with your friends, then maybe you guys can suggest Splitwise, or if you're even too awkward to suggest Splitwise, make them listen to this episode. That might be like the least direct approach that you can give them that idea to do a Splitwise with you. Anyway, I just found it useful, and hopefully you might find it useful too. Okay, I warned you guys at the start of the episode, this is going to be a very kalat episode. So now we are going to go into some letters from you guys, and I'm going to put a little bit more of a serious hat on. But I just didn't want all my episodes to be so serious every time, Like, I also want to show you guys my lighter, silly side. I'm just a silly girl, And okay, no, seriously, we have quite a serious letter, and we're gonna read it together, and I'm gonna try to see how I feel about it. We'll read it together for the first time, and we'll unpack it together. So here it goes. Hi Nicole, I have been a silent fan of yours since I was in junior high school, around 15 or 16 years old, and I recently listened to episode 8 of your Solo Flight podcast, which inspired me to write this letter. I am Mavis, not my real name po, 22 female, and I have a boyfriend, Matt, also not his real name, 22 male. I recently moved to the US for about a year now, and we've been together for 5 years, since we were 17, senior high school. Matt always played computer games since I met him, and it's been his hobby and stress reliever. However, through the years, I noticed that he kind of gets addicted to it na. I don't know if I'm right or wrong whether to call it an addiction, kasi umaabot na ng umaga pag naglalaro and halos every day na talaga. Since moving here and kind of transitioning na din to adulthood, or being a young adult, meeting other people like people who are driven in the US, I realized that I also want to be as ambitious and driven as them. And I want certain standards for my future husband if magkakaroon ako. And I have been communicating this to him ever since about his addiction to computer games. We've been through a lot of fights about it, and he said that he's doing something naman, although paunti-unti to improve himself. I support him on that, but I have been waiting for quite some time na. For me, sa nakikita ko po, His addiction or fondness of computer games hinders him from trying other activities or learning other hobbies that would improve his skills or his pagkatao, i.e. practicing his drawing kasi he's good at it before, or doing exercises to improve his body. I don't know what to do anymore and what to think. He said that he's taking his time, but I can't see it po right now. I don't even know if minamadali ko po ba siya, or I'm belittling him, or if I'm being too hard on him or what. Para sa akin lang, there are things that I want to find in my future husband na ayaw kong hanapin sa iba at tumingin sa iba. I want to see it sa kanya kasi I can see his potential, but he isn't doing anything about it. I'm hoping din kasi na siya na, since we've known each other for a long time and we've been through a lot. He's very understanding of me. He loves me so much, and he also wants for us to end up with each other in the future. Although wala pa po sa isip ko ang pag-aasawa in the near future kasi feel ko sa mga 30s ko pa po yun. What should I do po kaya? Or what should I think? Thank you so much for taking the time to read this, and congrats on your podcast. Okay, so let's unpack this together. The reason I chose this letter is because there was a time in my life where this was me. I was so in love with this person, and he also was so in love with video games. And it's so painful to see someone you love, and as you said, you feel like he has so much potential, because when you love the person, you want the best for them, right? And you want to see them thrive, and because you can see exactly what you said, the potential that's in them. But I think it's really difficult to say what if you should leave him or not. I mean, you didn't actually ask if you should leave him, you just asked what you should do. And you did say that you've been communicating with him. I think that's the number one, and I think that's important. But I also think you guys need to communicate about what your expectations are for each other, because I think it's difficult to keep being with someone. Let's so that it doesn't feel like it's just on the guy. Let's also turn the tables and say, if the guy was also just with a girl for their potential, like, it feels like you're constantly going to just be frustrated and disappointed when you don't feel like your partner is doing what you expect them to do, or to be as driven as you are. Although I also feel like it's normal for people to grow apart, especially at the age bracket that you're in, because a lot of people's priorities in life changes. As you said, you're meeting more people, you're meeting more ambitious people, and it's giving you a little bit more of that drive, and you wanting to have more for yourself and for what you said, your quote unquote future husband. Now, whether or not he fits that role is only a decision you're going to be able to make, because, whatever that image looks like for you is, I'm unaware of, but only you can make that decision. But I had a friend, I'm just going to tell you stories of what me and my friends have shared recently with each other, and I'm not going to give names. But I had a friend who recently went out drinking with her friends, and she is the friend I'm referring to is already happily married now, and she has a great life, and she's living exactly the life she wanted, like her dream life. But she went out drinking with a few of her friends, and she ran into her ex. And this is an ex of hers who she really, like, this ex of hers had a big hold on her. Like, this guy, at the time when they were together, she was really in love with this guy. And we were talking about, I was asking her, I was like, well, what was that experience like for you? Like, did that bring up any emotions or anything from the past that you feel like you buried or whatever? And she goes, you know what? It felt so freeing, because when you're in the thick of it and when you're in the moment, you love someone so much and you're so afraid to let them go. But then now that she has the power of hindsight, she can look back she got to talk to her ex. It's been so many years now. Now she's married, she's happy. And she told me, she said, deep inside we were talking, and I couldn't help but just go home and be so happy and thankful. And I'm pretty sure she prayed because she was so thankful that she has the life she wants with her now husband, because when she caught up with her ex, he was still doing the same thing he was doing when they were together. And she felt like, if I ended up with him, my life would be so different, and it's not the life I have now. And I'm so happy I have this life I have now. Now, again, it can be very different for different people in different situations. And for me, I think the wedge that, I guess, drew me apart from the person I was so in love with back in the day was that I too had very big dreams for myself, and I had a lot of goals that I wanted to see and achieve and just do. Like, I also traveled. There's so much of the world I wanted to see, and I kept getting not frustrated, not disappointed, but more like hurt that the person I loved wasn't on that same journey that I was. But I think we had the discussion where if we both love each other, we had to, I'm trying to remember because it was so long ago, but I think it went along the lines of, we love each other enough to let each other go and live the life we both want. And it hurts to let each other go because obviously you love each other, but he loved me enough to know that I needed to, quote unquote, spread my wings and soar, and I wanted to see the world, and I wanted to do all these things. And I knew I couldn't force him to want something he didn't want, and we were just on different pages. And also, it wasn't fair for him to remain with someone and be with someone who was also constantly pushing him to do something that he wasn't comfortable with. And I'm not telling you to break up with him, because that is a decision you need to come to on your own. But I will say that I think there is potential for you guys to work through this together if you want to. And I think it's going to be difficult because every relationship is going to have its difficulties. So obviously no relationship is perfect. And maybe this is just a speed bump or a little challenge that you guys have to deal with for him to realize that, oh, actually, maybe the reassurance you need is just to see that he has a plan. And I don't know what you need from him or what you need to see, but it could be, if you guys are in the US, I know therapy is a lot more readily available for you guys there too. Maybe you could open up potentially having a couples counselor, because sometimes it's difficult for two people to communicate, and it's easier when there's a median or like a third person or a third party to mediate the conversation. So that could be an option if this is really something you want to fight for and you want to push through. But I want to give you a really big hug, because I've been in that situation, and it really hurts. Like, at least for me, that was a very painful time in my life. And I can tell that you love this person very much and that you want to see and you want to end up with him. And maybe what you need is like to just give yourself, exhaust all of your options. And then if you still are genuinely going to bed unhappy and you feel like it's affecting your mental health, then maybe at that point, once you've exhausted all your other options, then you can sit down and, decide what you want to do and what you feel like is best for you. I will say, though, that if you are planning to have children in the future, then you need to, whoever you end up being with, right? Whether you end up staying with the person you're with or with another partner in the future, I think you have to have very honest discussions about what you picture your life looking like, especially with a child involved. Because as we mentioned with Camille in a previous episode as well, that you also don't want to be building all this resentment up and then carrying that onto the kid, and then you don't want to have a kid in a situation where it's already tumultuous or difficult, right? So if you can already kind of iron things out before you take a more permanent step like marriage, I think you guys really have to have honest, difficult discussions. And I think that's why a lot of people have what is called pre-kana or pre-kana, because sometimes a lot of people, wow, lalayo pa ba tayo? You know, a lot of people want to get married, but then they realize, oh, we actually want different things in our lives and our values don't align. So yeah, I'm sorry I can't give you a clear answer, but I feel like, one, I want you to know that you're not alone, because a lot of us have either one, been through that, or are going through it. I'm sure a lot of listeners out here are also going through something similar. And I know it's difficult, but sometimes maybe this, you need to hear this just to give you a little bit of a pep talk and be like, oh, okay, actually, let's just realign and make sure our goals are the same. And if they are, great, you know, then nothing needs to change. And maybe you just need to have that conversation. Sometimes this is the conversation you need to hear to decide that, okay, this is actually a pivotal moment and I need to make difficult decisions for myself and for the future family I want to have. So yeah, I'm sorry I can't give you a clear black and white answer, but I really hope this is helpful. I also want to open it up. If anyone is listening or is in a comment section and feels like they have a better solution to this, let us know in the comment section. Either way, I want to commend you for at least reaching out or trying to find different avenues or solutions for yourself, because I understand that it's also a frustrating situation to be in, and you're probably trying your best to, you know, work things out and figure things out. So, you know, I see you, and I've been you, and I'm really proud of you. I could tell in your letter that you want a lot of things for yourself and that you want to be ambitious, and you're feeling this drive to achieve these goals that you've made for yourself. And whatever you decide, I'm proud of you. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's your journey and it's your life, and you should make decisions that will make you look back at the end of this journey and be like, I'm so happy I made those decisions. That being said, guys, I love getting your letters and your comments and DMs. Please keep them coming. Let me know what you guys want to talk about. Also, it doesn't always have to be a difficult life problem, although I'm so happy to be helping you out in those topics. If you guys also want to ask about something goofy and fun, we can talk about that too. Actually, I have an idea that I kind of want to ask you guys, because I have some too, but I kind of want to make it fun where like I will share some and then you guys share some with me also. Maybe I can get a girlfriend to join me on the episode and then we can all share funny dating stories, because I just feel like there are so many things, like I don't want to give like specifics away, but like, guys, sometimes the things that happen, it's like, is this real? Is this real life? Is this really happening right now? So I want to know in the comment section, what are your guys' funniest or weirdest dating stories? Like, you went on a date with a guy maybe once or twice and then something weird happened. Share them in the comment section down below. You don't have to use real names. You can keep it anonymous. And obviously, as I share it on the podcast too, I'll also won't be using your real name. So I'll keep it anonymous. But share your funny dating stories, because I feel like we could all use a good laugh on here. Like, yes, we do tackle some difficult topics from time to time, but I also, you know, I want us to have fun while we're doing it. So life is already hard enough as it is. Let's give ourselves a smile or a giggle where we can. That being said, I hope you guys like this gulo random episode. If you guys have any suggestions, let me know in the comment section. Also, if you are a first time listener, please do give the other episodes a listen. They're usually not as kalat as this. And if you can, please do give the episode a rating and review. If you're listening on Spotify, just hit the three dots on the top right corner of your screen when you are in the homepage of the show. Hit rate show and then give it a rating. Or if you're listening on YouTube, then please do give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, guys. It's right there on the screen. Hit subscribe so that you get notified every time we have a new episode out. And also let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I love reading them and I love seeing all of your guys' comments and thoughts. That being said, I'll end this episode here and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye.